Well, the Root of Nightmares raid came out on time, and it didn't seem like there was any kind of technical issues within the first 48 hours, so I consider this a bit of a success. But that being said, I actually want to talk about both the contest mode version and the regular version, because the two play quite differently from my perspective when it comes to thoughts about the raid. I think it's mostly due to the fact of there's quite a nice density of ads, but at the same time, they can also end up swarming you and doing a lot of damage. And that's not to mention the barriers and the tormentors, they also hit quite hard as well in contest mode. On the regular raid, however, it's quite different. But I'll go through all the encounters without actually talking about the mechanics in detail, so if you haven't ran the raid yet, don't worry, you're not going to get spoiled on how to work out the encounters. Obviously, if you want to go see a guide, I'm pretty sure there's loads floating around on the internet by now because everybody has to make a guide for a raid nowadays. I don't know why, but it's just what it is. So the first encounter. The encounter I'm pretty sure can be two-manned. Yeah, this one's quite a baffling one. In contest mode, it did take a little while to try and figure this out and actually what you had to do with it. Obviously, I didn't read any of the leaks going into it and I didn't know much about the mechanics. I just knew the names of the encounters and a very vague description of what you'd be doing in the encounters. They weren't actually detailed enough to try and figure it out. So eventually when we did figure out how to do them, it actually was quite simple to get along with because after that, it was just a case of survivability, and in contest mode, obviously, this is a lot harder to do. Especially when the tormentors can 2 or 3 shot you, and then at the same time, you're being swarmed by Cabal. It's really not a pleasant time unless you've got Warlocks around who can cast Well of Radiance, or put down Rifts where they can, or even if you're running a solar class and you're using the healing grenade. The point I'm trying to make is, unless you are on top of the ads in contest mode, then it is going to be a bad time. Not in contest mode, however, this encounter is a little bit of a joke, if I'm being honest, because, like I said, it's a raid encounter, but I'm fairly certain you can do it with 2 people. And that's because the mechanic is dead simple to do, and at the same time, you only need one more person to clear out ads and do the other thing in order to keep the encounter going. I don't know how Bungie managed to drop the ball on this one. I don't even know if they're actually trying to make 6-man encounters anymore, because this just seems like they didn't put any effort or thought into it. Because even if you look back at Vow of the Disciple, whilst there have been people who have done the encounter solo, it takes a tremendous amount of skill to pull that off. Like, for very regular players, myself included, then you're pretty much going to need a full fire team to run that activity, because you're not going to have 3 talented enough people to skip around the map and do all the totems on their own. Whereas with this, I literally tested this out with a mate on just a random whim to see if we could do it. We got to the second part of the encounter, like, without even batting an eyelid. So yeah, very poor start, Bungie. You need to do better. Just a quick note on the secret chest. I do like how the first chest is hidden, and the fact that you've got to fight a tormentor to get to it is even better. The second chest, however, bit lackluster. I don't approve of opening a random switch that's hidden around the corner, but that is what it is. And just a quick note for the red border puzzle. Pretty much copy and paste from Vow of the Disciple and Kingsfall. Just locate 3 orbs and shoot them, then they're in specific rooms. It's really nothing special. I want something different. Anyway, second encounter. So, this one, a little bit more difficult, but again, can be done with 2 people. Because all you need to do is shoot across, pretty much doing what you did in the first encounter, but you're doing it with 2 of them. The only reason this becomes a challenge is because you've got to do it 3 times, and when you go up on the upper levels, the enemies do change around, so it can add an extra level of difficulty that way. But ultimately, still fairly easy. Like, I am pretty confident this can be done fairly straightforward with 4 people. You just literally have 1 person ad clear either side and then 1 person on each node. There you go, you've pretty much sorted it with 4 people. And again, I'm reminding everybody that this is supposed to be a 6-man encounter, so yeah, not very good start. The third encounter, however, that is where things get a little bit better. And I'm only saying a little bit because it's not a great deal better. Because as much as I want to like this boss, I do like the design of it and everything like that, and the idea of the mechanic behind it. In reality, you've just given us Caretaker with extra steps. That is pretty much what this boss is. But again, looking over at contest mode, this was actually quite tough to deal with and took a bit of time. And the main reason behind that was because the enemies are actually packing a very tough punch. Not to mention the boss does a lot of damage himself. But the Colossus that spawn in this room will just rip you apart if you're not paying attention. Obviously, in normal mode, not so much. You can withstand a couple of blows and get out of the way before they kill you. But apart from that, the Scions are a bit of a nuisance. There's not really anything else in the room that is a threat, and that's why it's a little bit better, but not exactly good. Finally, we go to Nezarac, and I'm going to be honest, I had the most annoying job of all the jobs that you can do in it. I had to kite the boss, and whilst in a normal raid clear, that is easy to do. You can literally survive multiple hits when it comes to Nezarac in just normal mode. In contest mode, even if you have 100 resilience, void resistance times 3, or some kind of damage reduction, I guarantee you he's going to kill you in 2 hits, if not 3. And if you've played it and you were kiting Nezarac on contest mode, you should know the pain because he has an attack that fires 3 times. And this isn't in succession, it's actually at the same time, so you better be dodging one way or the other, otherwise you will die. On top of that, there are actually nodes as well in this section, and you've got to dodge a lot of ads, including a Colossus. So yeah, have fun if you're doing the running job as well. And then we get to the disappointment bit of it, which is his health, because his health is actually really low. Compared to previous day 1 bosses, I feel like this damage check wasn't that hard. It was just more so trying to get down a consistent technique on trying to get through to the damage phases. Because there was always a handful of things that would happen when we would do this. So whether it would be I lose Nezarac's focus and he goes after a teammate killing them, which then completely ruins half the side of the room. Or we just run out of time and then Nezarac does his wipe mechanic and then that's it, we just wipe. And for the contest mode, this happened so many times because it is so easy for something to go wrong that it will just completely mess up the flow, and then after that, it is literally just a wipe. But then you look at it on normal mode, and it is pretty much a case of, as long as you don't take too long doing the nodes, you'll be fine, and you'll get through the raid anyway. Because DPS for this boss is an absolute joke. You can pretty much run Izzy's and rocket launchers, and you'll pretty much blow through him without any trouble. Not to mention there's the meta builds with the solar warlocks and fusion grenades. That just seems to tear him to pieces. But then if you do run low on time, you can also do a mechanic that actually lets you dodge his wipe mechanic, which has never happened before in the history of Destiny, and I don't quite understand why Bungie made it a thing. Because the weird thing is, the majority of teams that did beat Nezarac, like day 1, they probably didn't even do the wipe mechanic where you can avoid it. Because the reality of it is you can do the puzzle so quick that he doesn't even get time to use it the first time round. So it's literally a case of 30 seconds of building up the nodes, and then boom, you're in DPS, so he doesn't even get a chance to do his wipe mechanic. But yeah, overall, congratulations Bungie, you've managed to make a raid feel like a dungeon. I'm not sure how you've done this, but well done. Like, I think this is going to be the closest we're ever going to get to a 6-man dungeon, because it is not tough enough to be called a raid, but in the same time, I wouldn't call it easy because you have to still learn how to do it. But I'm not going to talk all negative about the raid because Bungie has managed to stay really consistent in one thing, and that is making absolutely gorgeous skyboxes, because the map itself is fantastic. Like, there is so much beauty in that map, and then having the Traveller actually overarching you as well is just a really nice touch. But something I will say is in 2 seasons' time, Bungie really does need to bring back a killer raid. Whether it's the Leviathan or Wrath of the Machine, I don't care, it has to be a good raid coming back, or this is going to be a really bad DLC year. And it should go without saying, their 2 dungeons need to absolutely blow us away for this DLC to be worth it now, because I'm going to be brutally honest, Lightfall has not been that much hype compared to the Witch Queen. I felt the Witch Queen was a lot more exciting than this, and the raids even show that as well. But that's everything for today's video. I'll be back on Saturday to discuss a very weird topic that me and a friend actually started talking about, and I'm going to give you a hint, it's about the Traveller and the Vex. So make sure you subscribe because you'll be able to watch that on Saturday, but for now, I shall see you all in the next video.